As yet another November comes to a close, we've got our eyes set on the sky, and this elevator could probably take you there. China's Bailong elevator is officially the world's highest outdoor elevator, shooting up 300 meters of sheer cliff and in only 66 seconds. Welcome to Kaleidoscope with me, Savithri Rodrigo, where we're positive, we're daring and different. To our partners on the show who take us to new heights, Srilanka Live, CDB, Park Street Wines and The Daily Morning. Thank you for being awesome. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us for updates. Kaleidoscope is on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn.
CDB Hybrid Leasing. Enjoy exclusive interest rate and much more for hybrids, plug-in hybrids and EV vehicles.
And now for a quick look at the week that was on CDB Snapshot. BOI gets $8.1 billion in total investments signed and approved as of this week. Sri Lanka's reserves decreased within 2 days by $72.78 million. Lankan tea export earnings fall to $95 million last month by 12.01%. After 4,000 flight tests, China approves autonomous electric air taxis for commercial use. Nissan demonstrates a futuristic concept car with floating seats and a unique T-set design. India becomes the world's first and only country to have an all-solar powered airport and railway station. Irish author Paul Lynch wins the 2023 Booker Prize for his novel Prophet Song. Merriam-Webster unveils 2023's Word of the Year, authentic.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
This is Srilanka Life News Capsule. Welcome. October's apparel exports declined 20% year-on-year, a total of $330 million. From January to October of 2023, Sri Lanka had a 20.5% reduction in apparel exports year-on-year, and there are rumours about shutting down as much as 50% of the SMEs. Apparel is Sri Lanka's largest foreign exchange earner, and if this trend continues, what happens? Secretary General of the Joint Apparel Association Forum, Johan Lawrence, joins me today. 20% reduction in apparel exports in October. What is the industry looking like right now?
So right now we are seeing the continuation of a decline in apparel which started pretty much over about a year ago. And this has come primarily because of a reduction in demand in our main markets. So the US, the EU and the UK, which together account for about 85% of our exports. So this is causing a reduction in demand, which is also coming at a time when in 2022 there was probably a bit of over-enthusiasm where people bought a lot of stock. So right now we're seeing a position where brands are holding a lot of stock and at the same time the sales are low. So in that backdrop we're seeing this reduction.
So are we going to be seeing closures of factories? There's a talk of SMEs, 40 to 50% SMEs being closed down.
We saw this coming. In fact, JAF called this out well over a year ago. So really from that time, factories have been making these adjustments in terms of not recruiting in new people and so on. And therefore there would have been a natural downscaling of the industry. There have been some isolated cases of factories which have either temporarily or permanently closed, but that is really the one-off and is definitely not the state, not correct to state that all of 50% of factories have closed right now.
So how has the global market changed? What are the asks by your end consumer?
When the consumer has less money in his or her wallet, then unfortunately his or her primary ask is price. So price is becoming very key. And in a situation where you have an excess of supply over demand, that drives price down as well. The piece that Sri Lanka needs to be careful of is to make sure that we can still offer product competitively. So the cost of production in Sri Lanka is something that we have to be very conscious of, because that is leading into the price that manufacturers can offer. And therefore, if you're not on the price, then we do stand to lose out.
Where do the challenges lie?
One is, of course, when you have a reduction in scale, that in itself leads to an increase in price. And Sri Lanka has never been a large scale producer, but now that everybody is operating at 18, 20, 25% lower, there is an impact on cost. So managing costs at the moment is going to be really key. And this is something that industry is going to have to look at in order to be able to ride this out until the point when things start picking up.
So we can't dictate consumer patterns, but we can dictate how we move forward. Where would Sri Lanka's competitive edge lie?
As always, Sri Lanka has to be continue to be ahead of the curve in this. So if you look at things like the movement around the ethical side of it and so on, Sri Lanka is well ahead of its curve from Garments Without Guilt and so on. So this platform gives us something that we can build on, particularly around areas of circularity and areas of sustainability.
At the Colombo Stock Exchange, the all-share price index fell slightly and the average daily turnover dropped significantly. China's share of the world economy is expected to shrink to 17%, a two-year drop of 1.4% and the largest since the 1960s. The resultant drop in demand for oil by China is one of the prime reasons for prices remaining around 82 to 83 US dollars per barrel. Gold surged above $2,000 per ounce and hit a 6-month high as the US dollar weakened and news that the US Federal Reserve will not hike interest rates. If you've ever wanted to visit ancient Egypt, the Tutankhamun immersive exhibition is as close as you can get. It is debuting at the Grand Egyptian Museum this week. He was never known to mince words, but it was minced and spat out with great humour. However, the truth nearly always hit home, and it hit home hard. A genius playwright, a magnificent actor and a bona fide director, Feroz Kamardeen has been in Sri Lankan theatre for 3 decades or more. With over 40 plays under his belt, he came back in full force with a one-man show which he wrote and acted, Grow Up Nana. In that 2-hour monologue for which he got a well-deserved standing ovation, I, for one, was truly honoured to have this amazing man with us in the studio today, immediately after his sellout shows. Feroz, welcome. So glad to have you here with me today. So, what made you look at your community at this point?
I started writing this maybe about 2 years ago. I wanted to kind of do a piece that was essentially sort of focusing on a community. And obviously, I have a lot of credibility being a Sri Lankan Muslim myself. There's no kind of timing in the macro environment that triggered it. Simply, the script was ready. We held it back only because of Julius Caesar.
So you looked at your community very deep, very wide. What were the revelations or some of the revelations you came across when you were doing your research?
So one of the things, I mean, I know it sounds very trivial, but one of the things I found out was like I called lots of my friends. And I said, do you have a list of people whom you send Watlapam to? They said, yes, we do. And some of them have a list of people whom they send Watlapam and Biryani, right? And on Eid day, usually. So it's the day of Eid ul-Fitr, Ramadan's. Then I asked them, okay, can you tell me how many Muslims are on that list? And they all said, Muslims? No, we don't have Muslims. It's only for non-Muslim friends, no matter. Right? So then I'm going like, my list doesn't have. Nobody has a list. I could still not find anyone who had a list. And then I realized, oh my gosh, that's so true. It must be that, right? It's something that we essentially share only with family and with the non-Muslims.
So you brought up Gaza. That was a very emotional point. But what's different about Gaza to what has been happening around the world?
I am not siding with the Hamas at all. I think the Hamas are terrorists and they don't know this thing. And to be very honest with you, I know lots of people say that the Gazans elected Hamas. Yeah, the Gazans elected Hamas. In 2006, when the last election for Gaza was held, 51% of Gaza's population are children, which means 51% of Gaza's population haven't voted for Hamas, because they haven't had elections for 17 years, right? So to say that Hamas represents the people of Gaza is as bad as saying that the LTTE represented the Tamil people. No, they didn't. Okay? And it is the brutality of what is happening in Gaza, the deliberate targeting of refugee shelters, killing children, wiping out entire families. You know how difficult it is to wipe out an entire Muslim family? It's the brutality of what is happening. It is the double-faced response of the United Nations, the US, the West, the hypocrisy has been completely exposed here. And that is what's really compelling about Gaza. Because I'm telling you, 100 years from now, they'll be apologizing for Gaza the way they are apologizing for every other atrocity.
Given that this was a very personal story, was there anything that was too close to home, sensitive?
Oh yeah, my goodness. So it's so a lot of this piece was very, very personal, right? So for example, the whole Vatlapam, right? So the whole Vatlapam is very personal because obviously we grew up. My mom's Vatlapam is brilliant. Okay, she obviously transferred that to both my sisters. So both my sisters make it. My older sister Faria and the younger one, the professor. Of course, now the younger one is like the exclusive. She's like the custodian. She's brilliant at it. She makes it's fabulous. But my mother-in-law was a brilliant cook, and obviously they lived with us. And I loved everything she cooked. I mean, she's a fabulous cook, not just a great cook. She was a fabulous cook and very generous, obviously, with the exception of a vatlapa. Okay, that's the one thing I didn't like about my mother-in-law's this thing. Not because it was bad, it was great because my wife likes it, Ida loves it, and all her family loves it. But for me, my mother's vatlapam and now extension my sister's vatlapam, Nazi's one, is the gold standard. It's just that it's the juxtaposition of the fact that it was, you know, from all the things my mother-in-law made, I loved everything except the vatla.
What did you want that audience to take away from Grow Up Now?
I wanted the non-Muslims to leave the auditorium feeling a little bit better about themselves and feeling like I know Muslims a little bit better, at least a little bit better. Okay, if not, I mean, I didn't possibly cover everything that our faith, you know, is about and our customs and all that, but at least a little bit. Now at least people know a little bit about what we do at funerals, what we are supposed to do at weddings, and what we actually end up doing. Okay, weddings are actually quite, you know, not these things, and I kind of framed everything in the whole, you know, the display of wealth sort of angle, because all of us can identify with that. So we've all been to weddings, Muslims and non-Muslim weddings, where we've gone like, oh my gosh, why did they have to spend so much money? They could have done this, you know, you didn't have to do, you know, this kind of thing. So I kind of framed everything in the context of that, but I was able to, you know, sort of talk about those issues that we really wanted to highlight.
So after that, what's up your sleeve?
So we're probably thinking of doing like a theatre festival next year, the Noah Theatre Festival, which we used to have. But we're trying to do that with some sort of original plays because we don't really want to sort of do a theatre festival based on these things. So we are trying to figure out what to do there. So the theatre festival is coming up. Sachin's doing a big production, hopefully next year. So there'll be some good theatre.
Grow Up Nana has been a revelation.
Thank you.
On Life in 60 today, Shan De Silva celebrates the beauty of dark skin with a collection of stunning jewellery inspired by the African goddess Ocean. She's the Yoruba goddess of love, fertility and abundance, and Shan's collection embraces all this in his hand-beaten brass jewellery.
In my young age, I start doing designing things, and but I keep everything to myself because of, you know, in our culture there's a list, do and don't as a boy. I love wearing jewelry. Then I thought, recently I thought, why I'm not doing something for myself and for others. I really like wearing gold or brass stuff because it's, I think personally, make your personality bigger. And also for the every color tone, brass is suitable. And I did research about African culture to learn some their history and the designs and things. My next collection will be some ear cuffs with some nice big stones and some arm cuffs So that are the only things at the moment on my list for my next collection.
So it's getting close to Christmas and there's some surprises waiting for you. So join us next week.